stuff that we came up with that people seem to like was your safety culture is what is typical or unremarkable on a given day. It is what happens in the middle of a busy shift, on the middle of a busy day. That's your safety culture. Now you guys, I imagine you all stand up at the annual safety day and you say safety is our number 1 priority. You know, we're completely committed to safety. That is the very definition of a necessary but not sufficient. If you don't do it, you know, and do it with some conviction, we're in real trouble. You know, but that's the very definition of a necessary but not sufficient. All the stuff that I'm going to talk about, I would hope, is the sufficient. That makes sense. Because what you find is your new starts and your subcontractors, they'll look around on day 1 and they'll look to see what the average people do. And if you haven't got 90% compliance, you've got a real problem because you've got free choice. You know, you can do what the hell you like and you don't stand out. But if you can get them up over about 90%, the whole thing becomes self-reinforcing, you know, and takes care of itself. Does that make sense? What I want to do is, I knew it was late in the day, I thought you might find this amusing. This is from America about 1961, to try and make the point that I've just made about people going with the flow. I hope you find this amusing.
The gentleman in the elevator now is a candid star. These folks who are entering, the man with the white shirt, the lady with the trench coat, and subsequently one other member of our staff, will face the rear. And you'll see how this man in the trench coat tries to maintain his individuality, but little by little he looks at his watch, but he's really making an excuse for turning just a little bit more to the wall.
Okay, I think you get the point, yeah. So, couple of things about this culture creation. You know, a famous saying, you all have heard it: leaders are always leading. You know, and they're always leading by example, whether they want to or not. Absolutely everything you do and the teams that work for you do sets the tone, whether you like it or not. It all comes down to you. You know, I think the most true thing I've ever heard from a guru in this field is you get the level of safety standards, health standards that you deserve. No more, no less. Everything else is just detail and case study. If the safe way is slow, inconvenient, or uncomfortable in any way, people will be tempted to cut a corner and crack on. Go out and about and ask the question, anything slow, uncomfortable, or inconvenient about doing this job safely? And I absolutely guarantee that you cannot find somebody in blue overalls who won't turn around and say, well, this, and this. And again, it's a learning opportunity for you, and they'll articulate that, and they won't even lie about that. It's completely open, because we're talking hypothetically now, aren't we? You don't have to admit to anything. You don't even have to go through the whole no name, no pack drill thing. They'll talk to you about that. But when they admit that, that will be causing you ongoing systemic problems, and you should address it with the same focus as you would address an unguarded pit or an unprotected bit of machinery, if that makes sense. Anybody ever been out for a date and across the table your partner has said, you're a really, really nice bloke and I really like you, but? Anybody ever had that? Okay, you all know what I mean. We all absolutely know that flannel is before the but in the sentence, and what you mean is after the but. You're a really nice bloke, but actually you're out. Yeah? Does that make sense? Because what you get is I want this job doing safely, but by Friday. And that means by Friday. And you get by Friday because people will nearly always give you what they think you want. And then what happens is things go wrong, we end up being caught, and somebody stands there and says, well, I said safely, I very explicitly said safely, I have no idea what the problem is. But what you've done is you've kind of cascaded down that decision. You might have heard the expression, you can have it quick, you can have it cheap, you can have it good quality. Pick any two. Okay, those of you who've got kids, if your 4-year-old brought you a fish that looked like that, how many of you would say, that's crap, that? I don't look anything like a fish, you're wasting my time, I'm a busy man. Come back when you've got something sensible. You wouldn't do that, would you? You'd lavish praise on it and say, this is the best fish I've ever seen, you're a genius, where's the magnet, it's going on the fridge, yeah? But that's the golden rule of coaching, number one, use as much praise as you can get away with in the specific situation. And the second thing is you switch to questioning technique. So if this is my son, I'm going to say something like, but Louis, you know, how do fish see? And that prompt will allow him to say, oh, you mean an eye, Dad? Boom. And off we go, and the fish completes itself. What's really, really interesting is it doesn't matter that it's really obvious that I prompted the answer eye. You know, we do all the physiology stuff of, people's brainwaves and stuff. The key point is that they say it first. If they say it first, they own it, and we're off. Even if it's really obvious they've been prompted. And so all you need to do is your frontline supervisors to be walking around praising as much as possible rather than criticising. It's 20 times as effective in changing behaviour, and asking as many questions as possible in a coaching style to get people to own the solution and answer. Here's a very simple task. You can't get this one wrong at all. Which of the two squares with the letters on is the darkest, A or B? Definitely, isn't it? Yeah, it's just really simple. Except, in your minds, you can see that there's a shadow coming from the cone, and you cannot help but make an adjustment in your head for the shadow that's being thrown by the cone. You can't help it. Because actually, they're exactly the same tone. So which brings us to this. This is the most sophisticated bit of kit in the universe by a country mile, but incredibly error prone, unfortunately. It's so sophisticated it backfires all the time. And in particular, you can only concentrate for 55 minutes an hour if you're stress-free, rested, sober, not on medication, etc., etc. Any of those going on, and you're struggling. So if you were jet-lagged, sleep-deprived and sick, you could be in real trouble. But a lot of organisations, when they've tackled the bulk of the big process safety issues, and what they've got left is the vast majority of accidents you've got left are slips, trips and falls, stupid stuff. Just if they just paid attention and took more care and just bloody engaged, we'd be fine. Any of you ever come across that? Yeah, well the trouble is you're going to have 10 minutes of zombie time every hour, everybody, at the very least. And so what the best behavioural safety approach is say, look, in the 50 minutes when you're bright and alert, if you just tidy up any housekeeping issues that you come across, they're not going to be there to trip over when you come around the corner 20 minutes from now away with the fairies. Does that make sense?